AI is evolving so quick. It's going to help companies go fast. It's going to make them a lot of money. But the one thing that people are figuring out correctly is that we have to control the blast radius of what our agents can do by using it. It's very hard to predict what's going to be happening in the future. We need to be very careful and cautious because we don't want AI to cause a company-ending event. How we secure things and how we get attacked, we're going to have great solutions for both.
Your identity access management stack was designed for humans, designed around predictable behavior. But AI agents do none of that. This guy knows all about this challenge. Meet Kevin Paige, field CISO at T1 and a security executive with 3 decades of experience spanning the US military, Salesforce, MuleSoft, and now identity governance for the agentic AI era. AI Cyber Podcast met up with Kevin at RSAC, and in this conversation, we discuss what actually breaks when you put an autonomous agent behind an identity framework built for people. We get into PAM, privilege access management. We talk about agent lifecycles because the hire transfer terminate model that most tools are built around has no equivalent for a system that was never onboarded by HR and will never be onboarded by anyone.
Systems weren't designed for the scale problems of agentic and non-human identities. AI is going to keep pushing the limits. We can't just have agents that just have admin level access. They can't just have access forever. They can't be over permissioned. So how do you fix this?
Hi, Kevin. Welcome to AI Cyber Podcast.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
And we're doing this live from the floors of RSAC 2026, yes.
Yes, that's the year.
And I have Kevin Paige here with me, CISO for Conductor One. What have you been up to?
Oh, I'm learning about all the different companies that are bringing AI to the market. I see AI everywhere.
You would lose count if you try to count how many times you see agent, agentic, AI.
Don't make it into a drinking game.
No. Okay, so if someone stumbled into this conversation that you and I are about to have,
yes,
why do you think they should just stop whatever they're doing and keep watching us talk?
Well, I think you need to listen to our talk because the number one risk in cybersecurity, it relates to identity and the management of identity and access. Mm-hmm. And we're going to talk about identity and access management and how to reduce those breaches.
Of course, beautiful. So my first question is something I've been thinking about quite a lot. When you say the current identity stack was built for humans, what specifically breaks when you put an autonomous agent behind it?
I think that everything being for humans, they were built with mainly on-prem, built for slow systems, built with the idea that humans, they move positions or they move jobs maybe once a year, maybe twice a year. Mm-hmm. In this new world with non-human identities and agentic AIs, mm-hmm, we've got identities that exist for seconds. And we've got thousands and thousands of identities that exist for seconds, as opposed to hundreds of identities that exist for years. So systems weren't designed for the scale problems of agentic and non-human identities than they were for humans. So that's the big reason.
Okay, so let's just double down on the conversation you've just started introducing us to around, say, the lifespan, the speed, and the scale of agents, right? I want you to give me a concrete failure scenario. So let's say an agent operating inside the current IAM framework, right? What does the blast radius really look like when it goes wrong?
There's so many interesting examples we can use here. One of them that I've seen quite recently was an interesting blast radius example is there was a software developer. He had production level access to his systems. He wanted to refactor his code. So he said, hey, I'm gonna have these AI agents refactor my code. Go ahead and use it as my permissions so that you've got full level permissions. What ends up happening is he left, didn't pay attention. The AI refactored his code, built new services, created new identities, created new access, pushed those new identities to production. And then in about 4 hours, those identities were compromised and then data was leaked. So,
oh, wow.
So the blast radius is gigantic when people are just giving AI the ability to access as administrative credentials, or if you're a developer and you give it all of the permissions so it can do stuff because you want it to go fast. Well, sometimes when you go really fast, you have bad accidents.
Yes. And I know PAM, privilege access management, for those who don't know what it means, it was designed around the assumption that privilege access is temporal and human initiated. But you've just given us an example. Although it's temporal, but it's not human initiated, right?
Right.
What is the equivalent control for an agent that needs persistent, elevated access to do its job?
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing that we have to get out of this idea that persistent access is necessary. So I'm a big proponent of really talking about least privilege and zero standing permissions, right? So we want just-in-time access. So if you need to do an admin access for something, you should get that level of admin access to do that one thing you need to do for the time period you need to do it. Once that time period's over, you don't have access anymore. And this really is a modern way to think about how to solve some of this administrative access that PAM was designed for.
Yeah, but operationally, how would something like that work? I mean, just-in-time access in a really big organization of, say, 4,000 employees or upwards of 5,000 employees, firing up agents and trying to, build solutions, deploy tools. How practical can that sort of strategy be?
Well, I think that it has to be practical because the current way of vaulting permissions for people to get access, temporarily to be able to do the actions that are necessary won't work and won't scale in the AI world. And really, even in the SaaS API world, it's having a hard time keeping up. I mean, people are looking for solutions and looking to move on, from the traditional PAM methodology. So the ability to have workflow engines and be able to provide self-service capabilities based on the context of what your role is in the organization is very important. So if I'm a software developer and my manager is responsible for the production infrastructure team and everybody on my team's had access to production infrastructure and I need access to it, I should just get it for an hour to do the task that I need to do, then it should just go away. So the ability to bring context from the organization together with understanding what your job is and then the ability to give you that access for as long as you need it really gets you to that place where you can scale it to 4,000, 5,000, infinite amount of agents or humans that need that level of access.
Awesome. So if you didn't catch it, Kevin is a CISO, and I think he would have some tricks or some best practices to share with us around agent inventorying. So my next question is basically around that. How does your team currently inventory the agents operating in your environment? Not the ones you provision, but like all of them.
Right, all of them, right? So we have to be looking everywhere to find all of them. There's a couple different strategies here, right? So from an agents, a lot of your agents need to call MCPs, right? So model context protocol in order to talk to applications. So we've got a proxy approach, an integration approach to all of our AI agents so that we can see all the AI agents, see what applications they're talking to, and they can only talk to the applications in which MCP servers that we allow our employees to operate. Once you can do that, that gives you an inventory, and not only an inventory, but gives you visibility over what people are using for AI, what calls they're making, how they're making them, and helps you give you that kind of inventory level view over what's going on and why that's going on.
Okay, so your strategy is getting visibility from the MCP server calls.
Exactly. MCP server calls, as well as integrating into the approved, like into Anthropic for Claude Code or into OpenAI for ChatGPT, getting integrated into their enterprise offerings. And then our employees use enterprise offerings to get that visibility.
Okay, so I know there's a real tension between giving agents enough access to be useful and maybe limiting access enough to be safe.
Totally.
There's that tension there. How do you solve that in practice?
I think that we're trying to figure it out, all right? I think that is the truthful answer.
Thank you for being truthful, because if you had said no, we have it all figured out, like, Kevin.
No, we don't have it figured out. We've got opinions, and
Share some of them.
Yeah, and so specifically, some of my thinkings are that agents should have identities, right? Yes. So how do we get agents' identities? And once you can get agents' identities, then you can understand the entitlements or the things they need to get access to, the same way that you would be able to manage at scale human access. So the idea is, hey, how do we make sure that we have a mechanism that all of our agents authenticate, get an identity, and then through that identity, we can manage the entitlements of what they're allowed to do. So that is the path that we're taking as a company at Conductor One, is really following this path of giving agents identities, inventorying them, discovering what they're doing, and then making sure that we can provide entitlements, short-term, just-in-time entitlements for them to do the work that they need to do based on their identity and based on what they should be allowed to do.
Okay, great. So I know that most identity governance tools were built around human lifecycle events like hire, transfer, terminate. Yeah. What does the agent equivalent of that sort of lifecycle look like, and who owns it?
Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting, right? Because I think that in the agent world, there's different types of agents, right? I think there's there's company type agents where maybe your business unit hosts an agent for finance or hosts one for sales. Then there's personal agents, right? And I think that you have to have different life cycles for different types of AI agents. And you have to be able to use governance tools and capabilities that can help manage a more persistent AI, like a company level AI agent, as opposed to other AI agents that are transient or ephemeral.
Okay.
You know, so a lot of times you might have personal agents. Those personal agents might be allowed to spin up other agents to do other things. In my example earlier about the software engineer, he spun up one agent, and that other agent spun up other agents in which to one agent to do a deployment to development, another agent to do deployment to production. So you have to have a life cycle that can deal with these ephemeral, very short-lived capabilities as well as the long-standing ones.
Yeah.
It's very complex, right? Because you have to have something that's very modular, that's adaptable, that understands the identity of the agents and provides it, and then can also understand that some agents exist for minutes, some exist for hours, some exist for weeks. So I think having very good orchestration, identity, and access management, and using a control plane approach to that puts you on the right path.
Yeah. So I know that some vendors are already selling identity for AI agents as a category. Yeah.
1,000 of them downstairs.
Yeah. So what are they getting right in your opinion, and what are they overpromising from what you've seen so far?
I think that right now AI is evolving so quick and so fast. It's very hard to predict what's going to be happening in the future. But the one thing that people I think are figuring out correctly is that we can't just have agents that just have admin level access. They can't just have access forever. They can't be over permissioned. So how do you fix this? How do you solve this? And we all understand that agents should have, very low scoped permissions that should only be necessary for them to do their job. But it's one thing to know that that is a great approach. Another thing, like how do you implement it? How do you execute it? How do you scale it at large companies?
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is what I think they're getting right. They know, what's necessary, but how to do it, and then how to scale it, and then how to handle it as things get more complex, as new agents come around, new LLMs come out, and this race of LLMs and this ability is growing very dramatically and very quickly. And how can you have an adaptable, always learning control plane that can keep up with this? I mean, it's going to be hard. People understand probably what we need to do, and they're trying to do it, but nobody's there yet. But I am very excited because it is great to see so many companies that understand that this is a problem space and so many trying to solve it, because we're going to learn. People are going to do bad. People are going to do it wrong, and we're going to learn. People are going to do some good things. We're going to learn. And then that's going to give us the best solution very quicker than I've seen most other security category type companies, quite honestly.
Fantastic. I know that agents can act. Of course, that's the reason they're built that way, right? They have agency. So agents can act on people's behalf.
Yep.
They can act on behalf of you, for example.
Yep.
So whose identity is it at that point? And how does that question really just change your accountability model?
It's a great question, right? Because right now, it's very easy to just give an agent all of my access and all of my permissions.
With what we've seen with OpenClaw and all of that. And
yeah, just going out there making stock trades, and just like selling my information on the black market, right? Thank you, OpenClaw, right? So we got to be very careful of those things, right? And this is where we need to figure out, like we talked about, how to control what our agents can do, how to make sure they can only do the thing that they need to do for as long as they need to do it. Like we have to get to the spot where we can do that so that we don't have, disasters, right? We have to control the blast radius of what our agents can do, and I think that's what people are figuring out. And I think the great thing with Claude Bot or OpenClaw or whatever we want to call it today is that people are learning the power of what these LLMs can do and what these agentic capabilities can do. And the power is wonderful. I mean, it's amazing. Oh, you can manage my calendar for me. You can answer my emails.
You can make calls. For me. You can make a reservation for dinner for me.
Yeah. I was just talking to somebody that was using it, and OpenClaw read their email, realized that they were talking about a roof, found a roofer that they could schedule online, and a roofer showed up to their house to fix the roof.
Oh my God.
Yeah, all through reading an email. And this was an employee. Wow. He was just telling us this story the other day about his experiment using OpenClaw.
Oh, interesting. But I know that we typically would advise privileged access review once in a while, but when that privileged access review is being done for an account holder that's not a person, what would it look like?
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those things that we said that like privileged access reviews were designed for humans, and they were designed for something that gets done quarterly, because people, you don't move around very much. You do the same job forever. But that's not how things operate in the agentic world, right?
Yes.
Things are changing very quickly. So this is where least privilege and doing user access reviews doesn't work, right? This is where we have to figure out how do we scope just-in-time access so we know and we can review audit logs, we can put the human on the loop, and when somebody's doing something, we get it to report to us as humans.
Yes.
And we can review audit logs and trails of what it did, why it did it, and really make sure that AI is telling us what it's doing. If it's doing a thing that is opposite our guardrails that we created for it, like we need to know about it.
Okay, I also want to hear your take on this. How are you currently authenticating or handling the case where an agent authenticates correctly, operates within its defined permissions, but still causes harm?
I guess the question would be, how would we do it for humans? Right? I mean, it's one of those things where there's always going to have to be a level of trust that you give it, right? If you're going to have an agent do something on your behalf, there's a level of risk that you have to accept, and you have to understand how you can scope it, right? And I don't think that's any different than a human that can go do a harmful thing, that can download a hacking tool and go do a hacking thing, right? So there's a level of trust that's required for humans as well. So, we have to make sure that we understand the level of access that we're given to our agents and make sure that we trust it, right? There's no getting around understanding how you're using your agent and giving a level of trust and making sure that makes sense.
Yeah. So, but I want to move on to leadership now. It's really board level.
Okay.
What does your board understand about agents' identity risk, and what do they fundamentally misunderstand? It doesn't have to be your board in this context, but it can be, because I'll put you on the spot.
Yeah.
But like your colleagues, what are you hearing across, your circles around what the board understands around agentic risk?
Well, it's very interesting, right? I think that from a board perspective, there's two views on it. View number one is they think they can help a company go faster, right? It can help you go faster. It can maybe reduce the amount of employees in your company, and they can make more money, right? So there's definitely a view of increased productivity, lower amount of humans, and also maybe buying less software because AI can just do the things that traditional SaaS software can do. So I think boards are really, putting a lot of weight on making sure that that happens. However, part number two is there are some boards that are very worried about it and think that, agentic could be, a major event to the company, either through security issues or through other AIs that are taking it over. So there's, I think, two fundamental views that I'm hearing. One is it's going to help companies go fast. It's going to make them a lot of money. Number two, the conservative view is we need to be very careful and cautious because we don't want AI to cause a company-ending event by using it. So I see both views depending on the company, right? Is it a younger, very tech-forward company, or is it maybe an insurance company or financial institution that might be a little bit more conservative on their use?
Yes. Okay, so let's say I'm a CISO, and I haven't started addressing this problem of identity for agents in my environment. What do you think should be the first step to addressing it? Not the first vendor call, but the first step to address it.
Yeah, the first step, and I've just had this conversation with somebody a little while ago, is discovery, right? You really need to discover and inventory all the places that you have agents, all the agents that are in place, and really just get an understanding what people are using, why they're using it, what are they doing with it. You got to bring that context together, and you got to understand, right? From a security perspective, our job should be to help our company make money, help increase revenue. So we can't come in and just say, no, you can't use this AI. Well, if we're being smart and we're being business forward, we're taking a look at what they're using, why they're using it, and then we're trying to figure out, like, hey, let's create guardrails and give them the tools they need to get the work they need done. And I think that's kind of the way that modern CISOs really need to think about this problem. Less knows, more understanding the problem and help providing solutions.
So let's begin to round up and really just touch on regulation and compliance here, because you just touched on that as well. Currently, which existing compliance frameworks have anything useful to say about non-human identities, and which ones are, would I say, simply silent on the problem?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of them out there. I mean, NIST just released theirs, which is a good one. There's an open source, I think it's called AIMF. There's like AI control
RMF?
framework.
Yes.
And that one's pretty good as well. But, I think that making sure that these control frameworks like understand, I mean, the problem is a lot of these AI frameworks were thought about and written 3 or 4 years ago, and they didn't understand the power of some of the current LLMs like Opus 4.6 or some of these like very powerful LLMs and their capabilities for good and for bad. And I think that they're going to evolve, right? I think they're going to have to, as AI evolves quickly, really the AI companies are going to have to get very involved. DeepMinded, Google, Anthropic, OpenAI, like they're going to need to be leaders in how to secure AI. They're the ones creating it. They're going to have to also be the leaders on how to secure it. And they can't do it by themselves. They need to create forums and committees of people that are out there living the pain so we can help solve the problem together. And I am seeing that happen, which is wonderful to see. But we're going to have to keep doing it because AI is going to keep pushing the limits on how we secure things and how we get attacked. And we're going to have great solutions for both.
So let's wrap this up, all right? Let's do futuristic right now. What do you see, what do you envision the identity stack that can actually handle agents? What would it look like in the next 2 years?
Well, I think that it's going to be a unified control plane.
Okay.
And it's going to be an identity control plane. And this identity control plane is going to be able to have to handle humans, non-human identities, and agentic identities because they're all related. In order to have a governance capability that manages the lifecycle, you have to manage them all in a unified control plane so that you can create policies, rules, and governance to deal with them across the entire enterprise.
Yeah.
And I think that's what the future looks like.
And across the life cycle of an agent.
The entire life cycle.
Absolutely. Thank you so much,
Oh,
Kevin.
thanks for having me. This was great.
Such a pleasure to chat with you.
Appreciate it.
And I hope you've been able to take a thing or two to really apply in your environment as well. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.